Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noviyanti Nurul Husna, and my two friends, Muhammad Haikal Attabik and Nickita, want to present the sentence production. Sentence production. The sentence we use in everyday conversation have meanings, depending on the ideas and message that the speaker conveys to the recipient. Sentence production goes through the generation of speaker for bilingual or multilingual speaker, for example, one language monolingual speaker. The distinction between these two speakers is that code switching takes place between the speaker in the two languages, starting at the vocabulary selection level, up to the final level at which the articulation is uttered, speech expression. Conceiving content. English content means content that has multiple meanings. However, content that is often talked about on social media means content that can be expressed in various media such as sentence, image, and videos. Content can be categorized into different types. Different types of content include: first, image content. Image content is a single frame visual pitch. There are different types of image content, such as lifelike, artificial image, virtual image that explain meaning, and abstract image. Second, post content. The post content is written work that present information in the digital world. Post content is generally smaller in size than other types of content. Third, video content. Video content is a combination of visual image and audio content. Video content is currently the most popular content among internet users around the world. Video content can be found in a variety of media, including television, websites, social networks, smartphone, and application. 4. Voice or audio content. Sound content is audio content that appeals to fans. Whether it's music or voice conversations such as podcasts, it's not uncommon to hear someone playing music content at work in a busy day. Describing a perceptual event. According to Wang, 2007, perception is a set of internal, sensational cognitive process of the brain at the subconscious cognitive function layer that detects, relates, interprets, and searches internal cognitive information in the mind. Robin 2005 described the factors that influence the interpretation of sensory impressions in perception. There are three factors. First, factors from personal or perceptual traits such as attitude, motivation, interest, experience, expectation. Second, situation factors such as time, situation, or workplace, social situation. And third, factor for the following goals: novelty, movement, sound, noise, size, background, proximity, and similarity.
Hello, I'm Nickita. I will continue the material, and the first I will explain about selecting word and speech error. According to Goldrick and Deland, speech error are unintentional deviation from the target from one intent to produce, while selecting word refers to reader selection of word as determined by number of factors, including meaning, both denotative and connotative, specificity, level of diction, tone, and audience. Word choice is an essential ingredient of style. The cause of speech error is speech error occurs more often when speakers are nervous, tired, anxious, and or toxic. It's supported by Charles, who explained that whenever speakers feel some anxiety about possible laughs, he will be led on to focus attention more than normally on what he just said. Next material is about classification of speech error. The first is planned internal error. Most of scholars assume that the generation of an utterance involves the translation or transduction of an intended thought into articulate speech via hierarchy of levels of linguistic description, roughly syntaxis structure, intonational pattern, word or morphemes, sequences of items representing sounds, sequences of motor command. Second is alternative lens error. An intended thought might not have a unique linguistic expression, and thus the translation might lead to two or more alternative and equally appropriate plans for linguistic expression. They show up in the blending of the alternative. The last is competing plan error. Competing plan error are held to be connected in meaning since they satisfy the meaning specification of the competing plans but are not similar in meaning. Next material is about the process of speech error. The first is language transfer. Speech error may be caused by the language transfer. That is the tendency of learners in transferring language elements such as sound, form, meaning, and even culture of their first language to the language that they learn. Second is language transfer learning. The error could be the influence of poor learning provided by the teachers. For example, teacher explain which is confused or unclear with makes student unable to practice the language correctly. Next is second language learning strategies. In the process of learning second language, learner has certain strategies. Bro say that the learning language strategy essentially consists of transfer, interference, generalization, and simplification. The last is communication strategy. Is another causal factor of speech error. Communication strategy used by learners will determine the way how they speak in order to communicate with others. Okay, next material is about content versus structure. Content is conceptualized to varying degree and stored in short-term memory, perhaps in the form of conscious central idea. As you speak, the rest of the sentence are installed around the conceptual content of the short-term memory. The structure is, so to speak, the container as the word implies what content goes into the container is set according to the type and amount of content, but not vice versa. Structure acts as content container and are more or less automatically created to fit specific content. Okay, the next is formulating syntactic structure. Syntactic structure are intended to represent multiple sentence units. It reveals a hierarchy in the order of elements, explain how superficial ambiguity occurs, and show the interconnectedness of certain sentences. When discussing syntax structure, you should first consider syntax function, syntax categories, and syntax rules. Syntax function, categories, and a rule. A syntax function is a kind of box or location in syntax structure, the div of which is filled with certain categories. Boxes are called subject, predicate, and object, complement, and adverb. An example is Grandma ate grandpa this morning. In the sentence above, there are empty place named subject which are filled by the word grandmother. Empty place called predicate are filled by the word clench. Empty place called object are filled by the word grandfather, and empty place called description are filled by the phrases this morning. The types of word that fills the syntaxis function is a syntaxis category. The syntaxis category deals with nouns, verb, adjective, adverb, numeral, proposition, conjunction, and pronouns. Nouns, verb, adjectives are the main categories, while adverb, numeral, proposition, conjunction, and nominals are additional categories. The rule of syntax relates to the theme, doer, server, and recipients. Take, for example, the following sentence: Grandma reading comics. In this sentence about the grandmother who fills the syntax function subject with the noun category as actor. Read, the filter, is the syntaxis function with predicate with the verb category which play the action role, and comics that fill the syntaxis function object with the noun category as the target. The arrangement of syntaxis function does not always have to be subject, predicate, object, and conjunction. For example, in sentence "come out grandma in her room" has a syntaxis function of predicate, subject, and conjunction, as well as the function of conjunction in the sentence below have an unequal position.
I'm Muhammad Haikal Attabik. I would like to continue the presentation to explain about syntactic errors. Okay, syntactic errors are related to inaccuracies in the use of syntax, inaccuracies in the use of particles, and deviations from the rules of relations, clauses, and sentence structure. Syntactic errors are seen in phrases, sentences, and sentence structures. There are various types of syntactic problems, including noun or pronoun, word order, and subject-verb agreement. And the next, I would like to explain about models of sentence production. At each level in the model, different data sets in the surface and processes are involved to form grammatical utterances that convey the speaker's intent. The components or levels of processing originally posed by Garrett, 1975, included the first, a message level required for generating what is to be said. The second, a functional level concerned with selecting major lexical concepts, for conveying the intended message and assigning grammatical roles or syntactic functions. The third, of positional level, involved in assembling phonologically realized words and morphemes into a sentence frame. And the last, a sound level associated with programming articulatory processes. And the last, I would like to explain about the conclusion for our presentations. Sentences or speech that we use in regular conversation have significance based on the idea or message that the speaker wants to convey to the other person. Perception is a mental process that enables us to interpret or comprehend our surroundings. Everyone goes through perception, which is essentially a cognitive process that helps them grasp information about their surroundings. Okay, that's all from our presentation. We are sorry for any mistakes. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.